Hello, welcome back. This is James Uriel from UX Shape. Today we're going to continue our mobile prototyping course tutorial. And the last time we looked at how we can develop the splash screen and how we can make an interaction from this splash screen and how we load the onboarding screen. So we go back to our course content, and the next thing we're going to look at, we've done the splash screen. We're going to work on the onboarding session, and this screen is very important because most of the time a new user will find your app on App Store or Play Store, and once they download this app, they want to know what this app is all about even before they make a decision to sign up or to register. Now that is very, very important because if we don't give them what they want, or if we don't present our product and services the way that is going to be informed to them to make a decision, then it will be very difficult for you to get a user to actually sign up to use your mobile app. And most of the time your mobile app might not get a lot of downloads on the Play Store or the App Store. So what we're going to work on today, we're going to work on the onboarding screen or onboarding page. As I've said in the previous tutorial, I'm going to be making use of these terminologies interchangeably. So what we're going to be looking at this for this tutorial is the onboarding session, and we're going to look at two things in this onboarding session. Why are we doing this onboarding session? What is the purpose of this onboarding session? What do we want to achieve? And how fast and quick are we trying to deliver that value that our product is going to offer to this user through this onboarding screen session? So what we need to do now is we need to go back to Azure and we need to go back to the onboarding screen. Now there is a general rule for design onboarding screen, and we're just going to make some research on Google. Let's just type mobile app onboarding. Let's go to images and let's just look at examples and the best practice about onboarding screen. Now we can see there are various ways you can do onboarding screen depending on your requirement, depending on the skills that is available to you, depending on how much you want to spend on graphic and design. It's going to impact on how your onboarding screen is going to look like, and also what you want the user to achieve within this onboarding screen. The rule of thumb designing an onboarding screen is you should not have more than 3 sliders to actually show the user your product. No more than 3 sliders, but some mobile app might have 4 or 5. I would say the bare maximum in exceptional cases will be 5, but the minimum you're going to have will be probably 3 screens, and that's it. Another thing you're going to consider when you're working on your onboarding screen is you're going to consider having icons on your onboarding screen. Now icons are great representation of showing exactly what type of product or what type of user is going to use your mobile app. And these icons, there are different types of icons. The best icons to use will be a flat icon and also probably maybe a line icon, depending on your requirement, of course. So what we're going to do, we're going to identify what we're going to place on this onboarding screen, and I'm just going to open Notepad and I'm going to have here and put onboarding screen content. So we've identified first thing that we're going to have icon. Another thing we're going to have a slider state. Third thing we're going to have on our onboarding screen is we're going to have text heading, and text content. We're going to have also button, but this could be optional. The reason why I say it's optional is that we might not have this button. We might just allow the user to progress. Once they reach the last slider, then the user just transition or just move to the next screen anyway. Or we can make them have a button to interact with to move to the next screen. So it's optional, but it can be compulsory depending on on the organization. But I'll leave it as optional, or I'll just leave it as compulsory. So the next thing we need to do is that we have on our app is we need to determine the colors. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we're only working on black and white. So we're going to make use of black and white in this onboarding screen. But some organization will make use of their branding. This is where you show your brand, what your brand is all about. This is where you can actually show to the user, because they are downloading this app for the first time. They want to connect with this brand. How do you make them connect with this brand? So we need to make sure that this onboarding screen is very, very good. The rule of thumb again is to make sure that it is not too packed, too cluttered. We make sure that we have everything well laid out. So we're going to have it done properly. So we have this layout of our the content of our onboarding screen. So now let's get started in action. First thing we've identified icon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this this image as an icon, and I'm gonna make it a little bit. I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger. Depending on the requirement, I'm gonna make it, let's say 150, and then I'm going to make this maybe a little bit maybe 5. Yeah. And then what we can do, we can have shadow. I'll go to shadow and I will change this to 2 to 3, and I'll change this this blurriness to, I'll change this to 0. So we have this done. Now what's next on our screen? We have slider state. So what we're going to do to get a slider state, we draw a rectangle widget, and I'll walk outside the our mobile app area, and I'm just going to make this 30. Or I can make this 20. 20. And I'll go to widget and style, and widget properties and styles, and I'll say this radius, I'll just make this 100%. The reason why we make it 100% is so that we can have like a kind of perfect circle. I'll remove this border, and we make sure that we have this. So what we need to do is we need to decide again. Our first screen, we're going to make it black, because we're making use of black and white now. On your mobile prototype that you're going to be working with, it's going to be the color that you've decided. So we're just going to make use of black for now, dark gray. And because we've used dark gray, we might have to change this page back color to a little bit lighter, maybe even lighter than that. You can make it this here so that we can see it. Now we have this screen, so we just need to put this here. The next thing we need to do is to duplicate this slider state, and we're going to use 4 states for our onboarding screen. So we have this first state. The best way to do is to select everything and then align it, distribute it, and then align it. So we have these states. We're going to group it for now and we leave it. The next thing we have on our onboarding is the text heading and the text content. So we will go to here and say text heading 2, and we're going to change this color to white, and we're going to have this text content, and we're just going to make use of 3 lines only, and that is it. We're not going to make use of any other line. So we align this and make this then. We can change this to 14. We can change it to, we can leave it at 12. This also we need to adjust it as well so that we can so we have this, we just need to align it properly, maybe change it to white, maybe bold it and bring it back here. Okay, so our onboarding is looking complete based on our requirements. Now we're going to have buttons, and we go to the widget as well and get a button shape. Now we can either have a button separately or we can have it as part of the screen, but what I would do is I'll not have a long button, I'll just have a short button. I think let's have a long button for now. The requirement is different, so we can have it as 50. Or what we could do, we can reduce it a bit, make this a perfect circle, and we can remove this. We remove the border area, and the next thing we can do is to have an icon whereby the user can press. So let's go to font awesome and let's say arrow. Let's put arrow here and let's put it here. We reduce the size to 20 or 20, and then we make it align center. Now we have our onboarding and everything looks. What we might need to do is to reduce this a little bit. This size might be too big, so I'll just delete this other one and make this 10. So we have it just a little bit tiny, and then I'll reduplicate it. Distribute, align, and we set. So we have this sorted out. So based on our requirement now, our onboarding is we have an icon, we have the slider state, we have the text heading, we have the text content, we have the button, and we have the color, so which is the black. So that being done, what we need to do, we need to adjust things properly, make sure this is aligned well, group this together, and then we can align this as well, distribute, align, and save it. So what we need to do is to make sure that we have this aligned properly. So our page now, it's really it's done. So what we can do, actually we can remove this and say and just put it, yeah, and just put something here. Let's make it more interactive, and let's say we can get started. Also, what we might do to talk to the user, we can say love what you see, and we put it just here and change the color to white, and maybe change this to 12, so that we can actually see this properly. All right, so align this as well, make this align properly, and we no, needs align. Yeah, so we're asking the user, love what you see, then you can get started if you love what you see, which shows that, okay, we are trying to say, well, do you like our onboarding screen? If you like it, then you can get started to use our app, so the user can actually be interested in using this app. So the way your onboarding screen will be arranged will totally be based on your requirement. Some app you might want to make another text here, so depending on what your app is all about, how you want to present your mobile app to your user, what message you want to communicate, then you might have different icons. You might even have more than one icon, so you might have things like this, which is, you might group this together, and then we might have to make this like this, so that's how we can see what we are doing properly. We can distribute it now, align it, and say distribute. We're not gonna group now, we're just gonna make this line here. So our mobile onboarding now is clean, it's sorted out. So what we need to do, we need to look at how do we move from one state to another state using widget interactions and using events to do that. So what we need to do now, we need to look at it, and we need to highlight the section we want to make interactive. We highlight the icon, the text heading, the text content, and this slider state, and we say highlight it, right click, highlight everything, right click, convert to dynamic panel. And once we convert to dynamic panel, we can see that Azure makes a little bit of kind of a overlay on each of this icon, and it has grouped them together into a dynamic panel. So what we need to do is we need to go back here and say, all right, let us have a name for our dynamic panel, and we can say onboarding slider. Once we have onboarding slider, we need to double click on this, and we need to count how many states that we've identified on this screen. We've identified 4 states, which signify this 4 round widget here. So we're going to say 4 states, and we're just going to leave it and save it like that. Actually, also make sure that once we create our dynamic panel, we have a default state of 1, which the content that we create that dynamic panel with is fixed into that state. So we need to go into that state, highlight everything, copy it, and paste it into each of these states, because effectively we're going to be consistent throughout in the way we display things within our state. So what we need to do, we need to look at how do we display to the user that they are in the second state. So we go to the second state, and we can say, we can make this because I've used black, I'm going to use, let's use a little bit we can't say because of the background. So what we might do, we might have to change this background to no, What we might do, let us change this to, let's use a fancy color. Although, yeah, let's just use a fancy color as an example. We're still going to change it and see how it looks like. So we go to the third state and we're going to say this as well. We go to the fourth state and we're going to say this. Now we go back to the onboarding screen, and this is what we've seen. So, but when we preview our prototype, now, what we're going to see, this screen, but we can't interact with this page. We can't move left, right. We can't do anything at all because this page itself is just static. We've not had any interaction to it. So what we need to do is we need to go back to Azure, and in each state we can just change this to state 1, state 2, state 3, and state 4. Once we've done that, we go back to the interaction. So how do we change from one state to another? We need to use event within the widget and interaction. And there is a way. We look at the way we interact with a mobile app. We have to touch, right? Once we touch, or we slide, or we swap, we can interact with the content. Now, what we need to do is to think about how we're going to do this. The simplest way to do it is to take a rectangle widget, have a 0 XY axis, and hello, welcome back. This is James from UX Shape. So what we need to do is we need to look at how we do this, and we will make this a little bit like this, right? We have this white area, and we duplicate this and we place it just here. Now notice one thing, we need to make sure that we have this as transparent. Of course, you don't want to have a white icon just there for the user to say, oh, this is where they click. So we need to make this transparent so the user does not see it at all. And then we hide the border as well. Once we've done that, we can group this together. Now we've known that something is within here. So when we click the right and the left hand side, we can see that there's a widget there. And once we click the widget, we can make an interaction. So what we need to do now is to always say, okay, you know what, let us give this a name and say right slide, and let's say this as a left slide. We can make it button, so BTN, and this as well as button BTN. Yeah. The reason we're naming it is because when we use widget and interaction and we convert it into dynamic panel, is better. It's a good practice for you to have a naming convention so that you know your widget are named. When you manage your widget, you can actually know what each of the widgets are and where they are when you search them as your mobile prototype goes bigger. And as you'll see in this tutorial as well, the prototype is going to get bigger, and naming everything that we've done is very, very important for us. So we need to click on the right button. We need to look at the onClick event, and we need to say onClick, because the mobile don't have onClick, the touch on mobile, we can have onClick. Or let's look at the more event, and the only event that is closer to what we want to do is the onClick event. So we're going to say onClick, and we're going to look for the widget, the panel state, and say set panel state. From what panel state do we want to stay? From what dynamic panel? Onboarding dynamic panel. And we say set to next. The reason we choose next is because if we choose set state 1, that means we have to make an interaction again to go to the next state, and which is just going to be too complicated, and we don't want to do that. So the best solution is to click next, so that we are telling Azure that just go to the next state regardless of what is in the next state. So just go to the next state and go to the next state like that. So we click next, and we say our animate in, what do we want? Do we want slide left? And we say yes, and we say okay. Now we can either copy this with Control C. So we highlight the case 1 and we say copy, and we go to the second left side button and we paste it in the click, and we'll edit here by double clicking and go in here and say changing this from next to previous. We have this. Okay, now let's preview our prototype. I normally mistake the left hand side and the right hand side. I don't know why, but let's just check it. If it's the prototype, it's sliding the way it is. Now if you look at, if you put your mouse on the right hand or the left hand side, you will see this cursor changes from this arrow to hand, which shows that something is there to click. So we can just click and we can move. Yeah, and it's moving in the right direction, so we can go still moving the same direction. So what we need to do, we need to come to the left and change this from left to right. Preview this, and we can go here to next, and then previous and previous and previous. And when there is no previous anymore, we can see that it changes. The state does not move anywhere anymore. So what we need to do, we need to remove that orange thing and just make it, I think we can have it as just gray, because it will show on the dark black as a gray. So we should be fine with that. Actually, we can't say it properly, so let us use another. Let us go for maybe this. Yeah, we should be able to see this now on the black. I think so. Yeah, so let's preview our onboarding screen. We've seen here which says state 1 as the page load. So let's start from the beginning of the app. Our app is loading, wait for some seconds, and we have the onboarding screen, and then we have this first state which has been highlighted here and indicate that we are on the first state. We move left, right, next, and we move right, and next. So we have this done properly. What we need to do next is we need to change the font style. I don't like this area. I'm just gonna change it to Maven Pro so we are consistent across our font. So I'm just gonna make use of this font, and I'm gonna say this as well to Maven Pro, and I'm gonna change this to Maven Pro, Maven Pro, Maven Pro, and Maven Pro here. So let's preview our app now, and we can see we've done what we need to do. Next, 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 and watch this state slider icon is changing from white to gray, showing that the current state that we are in at the moment. So we just need to change the button. We go back to the onboarding page, and then we say change this to Maven Pro as well. What we might want to do, we might want to bold this and say maybe black and bold it if we want to do that, which looks a bit okay. Yep. So we have onboarding, and everything works fine. So let's go back to our course content. I'll just close this. Let's go back to our course content. We started with the splash screen. The next thing we did was to work on the onboarding screen, which we've done. And what we're going to be doing, the last interaction, we've done the sliding interaction to show the user the services that we offer our product, which is going to be within each of the states. So the next thing we're going to decide is when the user press on get started, what screen do we expect the user to see? That is the first question we're going to ask ourselves. And the first question will be, okay, when they get started, do we want the user to land directly on the home page, or we want the user to create an account or log in? Now, there is a tricky part here, because sometimes you might say, all right, it's better for them to just get started and then just land on your home screen, which is good. You want to start selling products, you want to start delivering services to your customers, which is a good idea. But another consideration we need to have is, if they just jump directly into the home screen, how are we sure they are going to sign up at the end of the day? So are we trying to achieve registered user, or are we trying to achieve numbers of users that actually view our product? So this is the question that we really need to ask ourselves, what we want to achieve. And answering this question will determine where we want this get started button to actually go to. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to make this button go to the sign up or the login screen. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to combine our login screen and our sign up screen as one screen. So the login screen and the sign up screen is going to be one screen, and we will have both login and sign up on one screen. What this part is saying is that we're going to put the login screen and the sign up screen on one screen, and we can actually see how we can make the user log in at the same time, and also if they decide to sign up, they can sign up if they already have an account without having to move to another page. So we limit the processes, the flow and the process is going to take for them to actually sign up or log in into their account. So the next tutorial, we're going to focus on this screen, and we're going to move from this page to another page. And like we did in the last tutorial, we're going to right click. What I'm going to do, I'm going to right click on this page, duplicate this page, and we're going to say login and sign up. login and sign up. So we have this login and sign up. We're going to set this page. Let's make it 150. In fact, let's clear what we've done. Clear all tabs and let's go back to login. So what we need to do, we need to get rid of what we've done here. Get rid of everything. Get rid of everything and just make this, let's leave it as black. Once we get to where we're going, then we will determine how we want this page to look like. So what we need to do, final interaction that we need to do is to add a click event on this get started, so that when the user love what they see, then when the press get started, we want them to go into the login and sign up screen. So as we do it again, we highlight on the button, double click on click event from the widget interactions and notes, and we say open link, open in current window, login and sign up, and we will have this, which gives us this page. So let's preview this mobile app from the beginning again. I'm going to press enter and see if it works. It's not going to work, so we're just going to copy this link again and close this tab. We finish with this. We close this tab and then we can press enter. So we see all the 3 pages here. Now what we need to do, we start from the first one. The app loads for some seconds. We have the onboarding screen. The user can then move next. The user can go left, right as they want, or when they like what they see or they love what they see, they get started and they land on the login screen, which is this screen. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope you've learned something, and if you have any comments, leave it in the comment below. Subscribe, and we will see you in our next tutorial where we're going to work on the login screen and the sign up. Thank you once again for watching, and see you next time. Bye for now.